Hello and welcome to the print. I am Sumi Sukanya Datta and you are watching Health New. So, US FDA, which you may have heard, has announced that it may revise the guidelines, regulatory guidelines related to the hormone replacement therapies, which are there in place for menopausal medicines. And these guidelines have been the strictest warning that drug manufacturers are to comply when they make a drug and put it out in the market. And this started way back in 2002 when there was this large study which came out and linked these drugs to very serious side effects. So ever since, the HRT or hormone replacement therapy for menopause has been in controversy all across the world, including in India. To discuss everything around it, we have two eminent guests with us, Dr. Archana Dwivedi and Dr. Sheba Marwa. Dr. Dwivedi is she's the head of the midlife committee at Federation of Obs-Gynae Societies of India, or FOGSI. Dr. Marwa is with the Safdarjung Hospital in Vardhan Medical College in Delhi. Thank you so much, Dr. Dwivedi and Dr. Marwa, for being with us today. So, first, Dr. Dwivedi, can you please explain a bit about these therapies? How useful are these? And, in brief, if you can also touch upon the controversy that has been associated and how it started.
Yeah, thank you, Sumi. I first of all would congratulate you for starting such a nice topic. Why I say nice? Because uh, controversies were there, but now the awareness is slowly increasing, and you're becoming a part of spreading that awareness is a good thing for all of us. So, WHI study, as you said, 2002, it was published and really created quite a furore, stress, and among the clinicians and the patients. But let me tell you, then it came out very clear. The studies retrospection was done. What happened actually for the ladies which were in the selection criteria were not like selected based on the comorbidities, the age, around menopause, which time to start, and what is the component of MHT. I will like to change the term from hormone replacement therapy to menopause hormone therapy. This is the latest term which we use. So, when are you starting? And which component you are using for the supplementation of the hormonal disbalance is very, very important. So now it has become, I mean, we all know WHI trials are fading off because of non selection of the patients, the right frame, I would say. So MHT should be initiated at the right time with tailored dose, and I think it's a good thing to stay. And women are having longer expectancy of life if you see nowadays. So most or almost say 40 to 50% of their age they are spending in midlife and MHT. I mean the menopause era. So
Right.
this is a very apt topic, and it should always be taken with grace that we want to live with a good quality of life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So we'll stick with MHT and not HRT, like Dr. Dwivedi pointed out. Dr. Marwa, can you now give us an overview of which are the kind of menopausal women who actually can benefit? Is it like everybody can use it, or what are the within that larger group of women? Which are the best candidates for MHT?
Yeah, so for menopausal hormone therapy, as Dr. Hachana ma'am had already said, that we have now just specific indications where this therapy should be used. So these women who are within the 10 years of the onset of menopause. So menopause is that cessation of menses for at least 1 year. So these women they would require menopausal hormone therapy for various symptoms, and most of these symptoms are the vasomotor symptoms like the hot flashes, which many women they experience. Then the genitourinary symptoms of menopause. So these are the vaginal itching, the senile change because of the senile changes, the dryness, and they have the sexual symptoms, and then the symptoms per se because of the hypoestrogenism, and these can also be catered to, and then mostly for the prevention of osteoporosis. So the guidelines now, the follow-up study of the women health initiative, the controversy which arose after that, they have clearly mentioned, and even the endocrine society, they mentioned that these are the three indications for which menopausal hormone therapy should be used, and these are generally used for the women who are within 10 years of menopause, and the shortest the slightest the lowest possible dose of therapy should be started in these women, and they should be continued for the shortest period of time. So till when the patient has all her symptoms alleviated, then we can slowly taper it off. Then there are certain contraindications to menopausal hormone therapy. Whenever we counsel a woman about the use of therapy, we must uh, uh, undergo the checklist, and these are the absolute contraindications and the relative contraindications. So, in absolute, if a patient is having undiagnosed abnormal vaginal bleeding at any time after menopause, she has a history of thromboembolic disorders or stroke, for that matter, or she has a strong history of coronary artery disease, the cardiovascular diseases, she has a history of suspected, or she has suspected breast lesions, which may lead to breast cancer, then she would be having a history of endometrial cancer, she has some kind of active liver disease, and she has some skin disorders which are like PCT, the porphyria cutanea data. In these women, we don't advise menopausal hormone therapy. And then there are certain relative contraindications also, like women who are morbidly obese, who have diabetes, who have severe hypertension or hyperlipidemia, or who might be having benign breast diseases, and they might be having concerns because of that. So these are the contraindications. Then the women should undergo. So we have menopausal clinics nowadays. Women wellness clinics where women after 40 they are counseled in their perimenopausal transition. Because of this, we ask them to undergo examination, and the contraindications are ruled out. And then certain baseline investigations are also undertaken, and then patients are started. So these treatments, they are grossly classified into hormonal menopausal therapy and the other therapy. So hormonal, as in WHI, there were two arms. So these are estrogen only therapy, estrogen plus progesterone therapy, which might be either continuous or a sequential regime, and then selective estrogen receptor modulators. And the other therapies are, which are also gearing up because of lesser side effects, are the tibolones, the SSRIs, and certain other drugs.
Yeah, it's very crucial points there again. Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Dwivedi, now can you talk a little about, she already touched, Dr. Marva already touched upon these points of within MHT, how there are differentiations and there are different kind of treatments available. But, for which kind of women, which kind of treatment suits, can you, if you can please explain that briefly?
Yeah, yeah. I think Shiva covered it very well. But one thing which I would like to add on whatever she has said, there are two types of females where the uterus is intact and where the uterus has been removed. Uterus is like garbhashay, garbhapeshi, bachedani, whatever term people use as a lay term. So when the uterus is present, the unopposed estrogen should not be given. It should always be supplemented by progesterone for a shorter period of time, say 10 to 15 days. And there are combined MHTs also, which contain both the hormones in such a way that it is regulating so that there is no unopposed growth of the endometrium because of fear of having endometrial changes may later on be a little dicey situation in their later on life. But if the lady is not having the uterus, you can give estrogen only therapy because we understand that menopause is something which is related to decline in estrogen and progesterone. So this is an important component which I would like to add. And other thing is what Madam has already said, but we have got different therapies available nowadays. No longer is that only oral estrogens. They're like she talked about GSM, that is genital urinary system problems. So there we have got local estrogen therapy also available in forms of gels and ointments along with alternate therapies. This can be a boon in disguise to people who are above 60 as well, because there also for the GSM where major complaints are there you can give local estrogen therapy. Only thing is what we have to educate our patient that use it with the plunger and the device which is available. Why? Because if they apply outer side only, it is not going to be effective. Because upper one third of the vagina, or say the posterior fornix, we talk in terms of gynecology, is where the receptors actually are. So the drug should reach at the right point. So the doses can differ according to their symptoms. As Shiba already said, that we need to be very precise and short term when we are giving. And one good thing is that in the patients above 60, if you are giving the local vaginal estrogens, you don't need to monitor the endometrium. by ultrasound.
Okay.
And there are also sprays are available, gels are available. We have got patches as well. Patches are also being rampantly used. Only thing is that India is a tropical country, so sometimes the sweating and all these things cause a little problem. So gels and sprays are also good options which are available. Oral is obviously a first goal line therapy for a quick relief of symptoms. Then later on, but there are certain contraindications which we've already said, especially where we have got a high risk of venous thromboembolism. Say there is a receptor positive breast cancer patient. Yeah. Yeah, depending on that, there are different varieties, different ways and routing the administration of HRT, that is MHT, which is important because initial days when the WHI failed because only oral was available and the components now available like 17 beta estradiol is there in the combination of dydrogesterone, which is more like a natural hormones in the body. So providing good relief and sparing the side effects mostly. And let me tell you, there are many myths associated. Like if I give MHT, I'm going to have increase in my obesity, I'll increase weight around my waist. Some people think that it is like if I take MHT, I'll have more risk of cardiovascular disease, I'll become diabetic early. So this is all myth. Let me tell you, type 2 diabetes, there's a preventive aspect. And if I talk about the cardiovascular disease or the mental health of the patient, directly it may not be linked, but if you start early, like there are patients who tend to have a premature menopause, like premature ovarian insufficiency. Now at the age of 35, if she's behaving like a menopausal lady, you understand what's going to happen at 45 age. So everything is being preponed for this lady. So this is the patient where they get the actual benefits by delaying the sequelae of menopause, like bone, cardiovascular disease, mental health. And one thing which I would like to add, Madam said about SSRIs and anxiolytics and all, we talk about roadside safety accidents. That is only 11%. And when you talk about the brain fog, the insomnia and menopause, which are associated with the estrogen decline, the accidents which happen in the midlife of the menopause lady, you would be shocked. It's almost 47%. So why not initiate to give them a good quality of life in the later on time? So I think the world is going to live well if the women lives well. So we have to supplement MHT at the right time to give a proper productive female even after 45, because she has a teenage daughter, she has a geriatric patient to be taken care of, and herself if she's suffering with so many things, that's the time where the actual intervention, like Madam talked about the SERMs and Tibolons. There are so many other things also, like loss of libido, which is troubling her inside. But things are not coming out, the silent suffering of menopause. So MHT is something which can be offered, even hot flashes, if she talked about. So in the mid of night, you're all drooling with sweat and feeling bad, then how would you be very productive the next day? So if you supplement estrogen these patients with a guarded supplementation of progesterone, depending on the uterus present or not, I mean, there's one system, LNG IUS, which is available. So if you don't want to take regular progesterone, you can just insert that device into the uterus and give the estrogen to this patient. And believe me, they are so thankful once they receive the treatment. So I think what we are aiming as a clinician is good quality of life. Life should not pause because of menopause.
Yeah, that's very important point. And there's so many women suffering out there, but probably not enough people even know about it, and don't think of reaching out to doctors when they need it the most. Ma'am, Dr. Marwa, can you now talk about, the attitudes of doctors and patients? Dr. Divedi touched in part about it, but, detailed over the last 2 decades, how have things changed or things have changed at all? Do women reach out to doctors when they have these problems? Also, how comfortable are doctors in prescribing an MHT to patients?
This publication of Women Health Initiative study, which had two arms, and as Archana ma'am had already said, that it had many pitfalls in that study. So after that study, it showed some adverse outcomes in patients who were initiated on hormonal therapy. At that time, it was called as hormonal replacement therapy. Now we call it as menopausal hormonal therapy. So they were the attitude drastically changed. It spread just like a fire. All women, they started hesitating to go to doctors to for initiating of hormonal therapy, and they all dreaded that they might be having breast cancer. The cardiovascular protection would also not be there, and it's really harmful. But then what happened, and even the doctors, they also slowly, because the evidence was already there, though the critical analysis of that study was done later on over the period of time, but the evidence was already there. And whenever a litigation occurs, the evidence only saves the doctor. So the doctors were also deterrent to prescribe these therapies, and there was a sharp decline in the use of menopausal hormonal therapy following that WHO study, the Women Health Initiative study. But then over the 13 years, the critical analysis took place, Cochrane data review was done, meta-analysis were done, and many studies were done. And then they actually showed that the the WHI study had two arms. One had estrogen, and one was given estrogen progesterone. But the selection of patients, these patients, they did not have an age. The age was a confounding factor. So most of the patients they enrolled in the study, they were post 60 years. So they were not those who were actually going to the doctors with after the initiation of menopause, the younger patients. So patients, they have the onset of symptoms, and their the worry occurs immediately when the menopause occurs. So the average age of menopause in India is 47, and in the Western world is 51 years. So these 45-year-old women who are approaching, they can easily be prescribed. So these studies later on, they proved that the WHI had many pitfalls, like the selection bias was there, and they had comorbidities also. The obese patients were not ruled out. The patients who had already a risk of cardiovascular diseases or family history of cancers, they were not ruled out. And then the just two arms were there, the estrogen and the estrogen progesterone, and then it was shown. So, but now over the last 13 years, 13 to 20 years past that study, now again it has picked up, and especially for the vasomotor symptoms, the cognitive symptoms, and the genitourinary symptoms. So nowadays, even ma'am would agree that the genitourinary symptoms are the most symptoms which are sought for in these women, because they really have vaginal dryness. Because of that, in turn, their sexual life is affected a lot. There is decreased libido. She's having more urinary tract infections, and the women, they really approach their doctors, the gynecologists, for these therapies, and we prescribe them. As ma'am had already touched, we have a lot of formulations available. It's not necessary to have an oral estrogen or oral estrogen progesterone combination or other hormone therapies. We have the transdermal preparations, we have gel formulations, we have inserts available, we have patches available, and we have the intrauterine devices also. And really, the patients, they have good compliance with least side effect, and the least possible dose is delivered with the in a system which is very conducive to them for the shortest period of time to alleviate the symptoms.
Okay. Thank you so much for those insights. Now, Dr. Marwa mentioned about Indian women reaching menopause a bit earlier, other compared to their Western counterparts. Dr. Dwivedi, can you help us understand why is that, and have we been able to scientifically understand and how it affects women?
See, it's just area-wise proportion. Like Asiatic people have certain things more in common. Canadian people will have something more in common. So the Indian Menopause Society data and the NAMS, which the studies were done, there it was found that average Indian age was 40, between 45 to 47. So we have averaged it at around 46.2. So this is like just area and the social cultural distribution of the women. That's it. It's not a big thing, I would say. 48 is the normal age which outside world is facing. Some people who have 50, maybe the cold weather, the environmental and the eating habits, everything would have been mattered. But for the average Indian, studies which have been shown is 46.2. So that is what we are catering. So calling it early is little bit, I would say, a debatable condition. I would like to differ, because see, Indian women, compared to what, I'm not talking about the today's situation, but initial days, if you remember, they were eating well, they were working physically well, so they
Mm-hmm.
had less of the menopausal issues. So I
Okay.
think now we are all turning towards a gut, the healthy gut, when you talk about the various diseases in various females or males as a midlife person. So if your gut is functioning right, that again becomes to your food habits. No bakery items less. There are certain other things which are there, which are causing the problems in the in general the population. So I think many things do matter. Plus the industries where you are living. the genetics. There are so many things which come into place, the epigenetics, which cause the changes in the female or the male body. I would involve everybody in that, because midlife is a crisis for everybody. Talking about MHT, we're talking about the menopausal lady. Maybe coming 10 years down to the line, we'll be talking about andropause and the therapy. So
Mm-hmm.
things are linked up like this. The only thing, which question you asked to Dr. Marwa previously, that the only thing is that we have to give an ear. History taking is very important, because you can always dig out so many things pertaining to the breast cancer, to like venous thromboembolism in a female, and what time her masi or her mother attained the menopause. So you will be somehow predicting the menopause in terms of premature, as I said, below 40 years of age. So that ways we could help them much better. So if I talk about the disparity which we are facing, maybe lesser now, the awareness among the clinician, the care provider itself is lacking. So any female who's living in the house, maybe I'm talking like a layman, but she's banging everywhere, throwing things, throwing tantrums. But everybody say either she's menstruating, let her be like that, she'll be okay. Or she's into menopause, she's out to do that. No, she needs help. Once she's shouting and trying to reach out to you, please give a word, take her to the hospital. And to the ladies who are listening to this, let me tell you, be more political, write down that this I cannot do, this I am not able to do, which I was doing previously. So help me out. So when you talk over the table, I think the family starts listening to you. And as a clinician or the care provider, I think it's a total treatment, not just because the husband is not having a good sex with the wife and he brings it for the treatment of GSM, rather than it is not only GSM, increased frequency of micturition. If even she's going to the party or somewhere, she feels like every time bathroom is near. So there are so many things which is causing the suffering. So I think as a clinician, as a care provider, be ears, be more like listener rather than being judgmental. That is going to help our ladies even better.
Yeah, very important points there again. Now, we have almost reached the end of the conversation. So before we wrap up the chat, can we quickly reach some 4 5 points, quick pointers for our viewers who can probably benefit on what to do and what not to do during the menopausal and menopausal stage? Dr. Marwa, could you please start?
Yeah, so the first of all, this is a very normal thing, physiological. We have to accept it. Second, as Madam had already highlighted, that our body is undergoing certain processes. So mood will be altered, our personal life will be altered, our cognitive function will be altered. We need to accept it and we need to vent it out. If family members are not hearing, we should tell them. We should call for help. We should go to our wellness clinics, to our healthcare providers, and I have personally seen that if we give 5 minutes extra to that patient who is coming to us with any other symptom which is related to perimenopausal transition, and we just ask her, "Do you have any mood disturbances, or you're feeling low these times, or you're feeling angry at the slightest of the pretext?" And she just opens out so warm with warmth, that the healthcare provider is giving her the very much required ear, and then she comes out and she feels light, and then you can cater to her that okay, you can get these investigations done, and then we can prescribe, these can be tackled. And then she should be told that there are three types of symptoms which we have to tackle. Menopausal hormonal therapy is a reality. Apart from the hormonal therapy, we must tell her about the lifestyle changes also at this time. So we should tell her to undertake a moderate exercise. 30 minutes exercise 5 days a week will go a long way to help her cause. Then she should take some diet modifications as well, a healthy diet, and she should give up on some things, some habits. If she's doing smoking or alcohol, she should just forfeit them. She can take yoga and exercise. Our prime minister is also a very ardent follower of yoga and advocate. So these dietary changes, inclusion of lentils, phytoestrogens diet, legumes, these can also help, and cranberry juice. And as ma'am touched, the gut health is very important, so probiotics, so initiation of probiotics, that will also help. So we should tell her that. Then we should tell her about the menopausal hormonal therapy. This is the therapy if you have the uterus, if you don't have the uterus. these are the symptoms we need to address. We can start with the slightest possible dose. What would we should give her a basket approach again, and we should tell her like what she would be comfortable with, whether she would be comfortable with the oral therapy. Actually we should rule out all the contraindications also. And then transdermal patches, this local gel, some patients they don't feel comfortable even with the local ones also. But for the sexual dysfunction, these are really a boon. And then we must tell her that she should be monitored also. She just can't take start on hormonal therapy and just go home and continue it for ages. She should come back, and need for this hormonal therapy should be reassessed at least annually. And when we think that the symptoms have gone or the patient has adjusted her lifestyle accordingly, then we can also stop. And abrupt stoppage should not be there, it should be a gradual stoppage. So, and monitoring also needs screening for the adverse effects, and then she should be screened, and if god forbidden those are there, so they should also be treated.
Very helpful advice there. I hope a large number of women are listening to this and they benefit from this.
Yeah, I would just like to summarize what Shiba has said. She has covered it very nicely. One thing you understand, nobody owns menopause. It's a multi-speciality treatment. And as a mother, as a friend to you, as a gynec case care provider, I would insist that whatever Shiba said is right. But as a mother, catch them young, be a good lifestyle person, and do have your cheat days, but don't shy away from your complaint. I think learning to say no and learning to say what I need is one thing which is every woman should be core feeded with that. I feel so. And the important part is that before we end, give yourself a good health checkup plan every year. Don't go for diamond rings, that is going to fade off, but your inner well being is going to give you what you will be remaining for the rest of the years. So, I think this is what I would like to be very judgmental on that. That HCP or health checkup plans are something which every husband should take care of, that key wedding anniversary or the birthday gift is health checkup plan. And very important thing is learn smiling. Keep a sleep hygiene routine. Don't hit the bed if you're not going for intimacy or not feeling sleepy. Sit, do some productive work. You feel asleep, go and sleep. Stop taking power naps in the afternoon because that is the reason of insomnia at night. And dress up nicely, pamper yourself because you should look good in every perspective, whatever you are. Graying is a part, aging is a part, and so are we going to remain women all the time, happy as ever. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for including me.
Wow, this was meant to be a medical conversation, but it ended up being a lifestyle and life coach conversation as well. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Dwivedi and Dr. Marwa. Really appreciate that both of you could take out time for this chat today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
having us
Thank you.
here.